challenged with it. So we've been on hiatus since mid-March, but we were hoping at this point to be able to do in-person events, but that is not possible, as you all know. So we decided to try our hand at a virtual event. So bear with us. It's the first one. We're all learning, and I'm grateful to have the Rubins here to help out since they're much more professional about this than we are. But our mission at CTC is to help young adults with developmental disabilities and their families. And our focus is really on the transition out of school and into the community, whatever that looks like. So the preparation for that and navigating it once it happens is what we really try to focus on. And as you know, every child is going to have a different path. And so all of us are learning together on what we can do to ease that transition. CTC is primarily an all-volunteer organization. We provide customized employment services, social and volunteer opportunities for our young adults, and this educational outreach series, which normally includes monthly Friday forums, informational tours out into the community that look at residential options, day service options, all those kinds of things, and an annual transition summit, which we hope to be able to host in person in the fall this year. As I said, we've been on hiatus since mid-March, but we are going to kick this off with talking about special needs planning and letters of intent. I think the pandemic has really forced a lot of us to think about, maybe sooner than we would like, what would happen to our son or daughter if we were unable to care for them, if we were to become ill, or if we were to pass away. And special needs planning is a topic that we talk about here in our education outreach events at least once a year because it's so important. And letters of intent is something that I know myself personally, I've started one, but it's sorely lacking. So it's a promise I've made to myself this year to try to get it into order. And it really is a way of giving yourself peace of mind that if something were to happen, someone else can step into your shoes and take over without a lot of, uncertainty and stress for both them and our child. So I'm happy and so grateful to have Brian Rubin, and I think Benji's going to be on for a while, here to talk about special needs planning. They are an incredible resource for families. I know I included with your source materials, your seminar materials, their bios, which are lengthy. Suffice to say that they are well known throughout the state of Illinois and probably even beyond for the legal services that they provide to our special needs families, and also for their work with disability-based organizations like the ARC of Illinois and the state of Illinois and sibling organizations in Clearbrook, and it goes on and on. So I really appreciate their willingness to do this with us today. We're having trouble with the chat feature, so what we will do is hold questions till the end, and then we will allow participants to unmute to ask questions at the end. So thank you again for attending. We really appreciate it. The one advantage of virtual events is that we can talk to people throughout the state and beyond the state. So thanks to all for coming, and please help me welcome Brian Rubin.
Okay, so now why isn't this working? Hold on a second. So, first, Benji with a 17-month-old baby and a 3-year-old baby is being excused this morning, so the old man is who you're getting this morning. 40 years ago, life took a fork in the road. Our second child was born. Mitch appeared to be fine. Everything seemed to be fine. It wasn't long after that my wife said something's wrong. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's not hitting these milestones. Well, we've been married 43 years. I don't listen to her now. I didn't listen to her then. Bottom line is, we did the doctor hopping, trying to find an answer. And then when somebody said, oh, developmentally delayed. You go to the dictionary, delayed means you catch up eventually. We just don't know the lingo yet. Entering the world of special education. It was quite different 40 years ago. The younger parents on the Zoom now, back then, autism, people would cross the street. I think they thought it was contagious or something. Friends changed. You're going out on Saturday night, you're not using the 11-year-old girl next door to babysit. Going on vacations is more of an experience than any kind of relaxation. Always on. Mitch is on the lower end of Mitch. Mitch is on the lower end of the spectrum. Functions at about a 5 or 6-year-old level. Doing pretty darn well now. You can see in the right-hand corner there the picture. He was Benji's best man at his wedding in August of 2015. And Mitch moved in when he was 22 to a small Clearbrook group home. Been on the board of Clearbrook since 1989. Doing pretty darn well with enhanced funding. He has a one-on-one. Of course, COVID did a job on this. His weekly home visits are on hold, and we end up visiting with masks on and distance in the garage of his group home. And he's having trouble understanding why he's not coming home to sleep over, like he did for years and years. But all things considered, he's doing pretty darn well. Before the COVID pandemic, he was working in the community a few days a week, well, again with his one-on-one staff, and then at Clearbrook's workshop in Palatine for the other days. We'll talk more about him in a moment, but I want to introduce himself.
And in first place with a gold from Clearbrook is Mitchell Rubin.
Woohoo, Mitchell! Are you excited? Mitchell, 2 thumbs up. Yes!
We learned the hard way always to have an old gold medal in our pocket, because he doesn't do well with ribbons. So we always sometimes have to do a little switch afterwards and convince him he really won the medal. But that's Mitch, who we're going to talk a little about. No two kids are the same, but a lot of the stuff we're talking about is really universal. Let's go over here. Today's presentation, at the request of our host, is focused on letters of intent. What I want to point out is that we do often speak about general estate planning, special needs planning, which includes special needs trusts. There's third-party and first-party trusts. There's pool trusts. We talk about able accounts, guardianship and alternatives to guardianship, how to navigate the PUN system, ins and outs of government benefits and health insurance, getting it past age 26. All these things on the screen, including letters of intent. Again, we're not going to be covering that today because we're doing letters of intent basically. But I want to point out to you that if you want that full 9 yards of all the information, I'm a past president of the ARC of Illinois. Benji's on the ARC board, an officer. We do several times a year half-day and full-day presentations. So there's one coming up next week. Again, you can contact the ARC, the phone number's on there, or the website's on there. And that's going to be a 9 to 3:30, where Sherry Schneider, who's the current president of the ARC of Illinois, who actually office is down the hall from us, is going to speak on applying for SSI and SSDI and Medicaid and Medicare and how it works. Benji and I both will be on there, God willing, speaking about the legal topics. Shirley Perez from the ARC is going to talk about puns and getting selected and how to deal with your ISC agent. And we're also going to have a friend of mine, Matt Cohn, nationally renowned special education attorney, talk about special education during COVID. So that's one possibility if you want. If that doesn't work for you, on Thursday, May 11th, we're doing it again, Shirley and us, Shirley and Sherry both. And that time we're going to have Jenny Hansen, an attorney friend of mine, who does when our kids with special needs get involved with the criminal justice system, be it police and state's attorneys, and how to deal with that, how to try and educate your local police. So that's on that one is on June 8th. The May 11th one, it's just Sherry and Benji and myself. So just so you have some sources there. Our website, rubinlaw.com, keeps up to date pretty well with where we're speaking, but this will give you some good ones. So today we're going to talk about letters of intent. What I call it guidance and instructions for the future team, if you will. And I joke about it with my wife. For years, I had this form that we've put together, and it was on our nightstand, and it was sat there, and it sat there, and sat there, because we're going to live forever, right? And well, when Mitchell was really, we had a version of it that we did every year when Mitchell had a new one-on-one aide at school, and we say, oh, we got to educate this new teacher. We have to educate this new aide. Tell him when Mitch says this is what he really means, and if he does this or says this, watch out. This is what's coming next. Tips. So we had that, but we never really did a formal one until Mitchell was getting ready for residential. When he was aging out of school, and we had the opportunity. Sadly, the system works. At least it did 20 years ago. A lot more than now, where you knew the right state rep and state senator, and you got funding, and you were able to get in, which is not the case anymore. So we had the opportunity at that point to get admission to a group home at Clearbrook, again, an agency that I've been involved with since Mitchell was 9 years old. We took it. But as I tell people, moving into residential is like putting a knife in and twisting it and pulling it out. He did better with it than we did, basically. I've done presentations just on that, getting your head wrapped around when your child, your son or your daughter is moving into residential, what to worry about and what not to worry about, and think about the big picture, and they have dealing with the DSPs, the direct support professionals, and the Qs, the first level management. But today we're going to talk about just getting things documented, and I highlighted down here, not just future trustees of special needs trusts, not just guardians, who's going to make decisions on where they're living and medical decisions, not just that, it's about school, but also care providers. Again, it's a little different version, but talking about, this is my kid, I know it's not your kid, but, and again, it gets difficult to talk about, but really getting information down, trying to put all this into a book, so to speak. Well, I'm going to start with a real quick overview of topics, and then we're going to dive into it almost like a workshop. We're going to go through step by step. But family information, you say, well, the guardians is my sister or my brother, or maybe it's my other children. Do they know everything? Don't let my Mitch be alone with Uncle Harry. They don't. Do they know everything on both sides of the family, so to speak? Okay. Do they know? Is there medical history they should know about? Running diabetes, glaucoma, whatever. Do they know about these different things? Your chosen trustees and guardians, or do we need to get that down while we're still upright? We can get that information down. The history of diagnosis, hospitalizations, medications, not just what the child is on now, but what do we try? It was a mistake. It didn't work well. Okay. Not just what doctors they see now, but what doctors we see, we never want to see that jerk again, okay? Because your guardians and trustees may not know that, and we need to have that documented. Well, behaviors and do's and don'ts, and Think about it that you're going out on a Saturday night and you either have a great respite worker or you got somebody to watch, and you want to have do's and don'ts. If Mitch says this, watch out. If he starts to do this, this is what's going to happen in about 5 minutes. Okay, you want to lay that out, and that's why it's a living document. You're going to change this periodically. You're updating it because life changes. We're going to talk about meltdown techniques. What works sometimes, what never works, what's going to escalate the situation and make it worse. You want to give people these tips. Schools, if they're still in school, who to talk to at school, who not to talk to at school. Your thoughts about the future for transitioning out. What are the options? Depending on their level, you may be looking at various programs in and outside of the state that our kids could go to, even residential schools like college settings, or they're going to be staying in school till the day before 22. And we're going to talk about what your thoughts are. Where they should be working. Are they working in the community? Could they work in the community for a period of time? What situations out there? What about living situations? Is the goal that they're going to live forever with other family members? Or are we going to be looking at group homes? That's what you want. Are we going to be looking at ICFDDs? That's the campuses, intermediate care facility for developmentally disabled. What are your thoughts? Because if you sit down with these people to talk about it over the table, or with your older kids, they don't want to hear about it. You're going to live forever. I don't want to hear about this and whatever. So, and also emotionally, it's very difficult to sit down and say, when we're gone again, because what's the parent's prayer? Let my kid with special needs have a long, healthy, and enjoyable life. But we don't want somebody else to be taking on their responsibility. They could be the greatest people in the world. It's not mom and dad. Okay, it's not their kid. So we need to put this information down there as to what your thoughts are, what your desires are. If somebody's passed away, should they go to the funeral? Should they go to the wake? If you had that experience maybe with a grandparent, you learn each time from those situations to make it easier for them. Okay, the government, if they're on government benefits, SSI, SSDI, Medicare, Medicaid, get the last correspondence, keep it in the folder with your letter of intent. At the Social Security office should you talk to, who not to talk to again. That type of information, the history of that type of stuff. Where are your estate plan documents? I mean, I've been in practice now for well over 40 years. I don't know how many times we're looking at basements and we're looking in trunks trying to figure out where's the estate plan, where's the wills, where's the trust. Well, we did it, and where is it? Well, now that you passed away, and you never told anybody where you're putting all your documents. Okay. When we do estate planning, we do short-term guardian declarations for minor children or adult disabled. If you're guardian, you can delegate without going to court your parental or guardian responsibility to somebody else. Where are those forms? How do they work? If you did a prepaid funeral for your child, or you have specific desires about funerals and what's going to happen, it doesn't do anybody good unless you share that information. And if it's too difficult, even if you put it in your letter of intent, you should share that, because nobody may look at these papers until you're in the ground or you're in the vault and whatever. And then an executive summary. We're going to talk a lot about that in this next hour. You have all this information and you put it together in this binder, and okay, but now something unexpectedly quickly happened to you. And they're saying, I need to get through the next 24 or 48 hours. I mean, you have all this information in here, and when I can look at it, if your kid ever goes to sleep, I'll look at it. But now I need to know how to get through the next 24 or 48 hours. Who do I call? Where are these things? What time does the bus come? All these types of things in the executive summary that we're going to talk about. So one of the things that Linda put in the materials is this fillable PDF form, request form for information. So you could check a box saying, don't call me, send me the PDF. That's great. Okay. Number 2 on that fillable form is an article, multiple articles about doing a letter of intent, and a fillable form you could use, and also information about doing an executive summary. It's also on our website at the link that's listed on there too, but you can send PDF or you can go to the website. There's the form that was Linda had circulated. Number 2 is the letters of intent and articles. So one of the articles that you're going to see when you check that box is something that I wrote for the EP magazine back in 2011, and it's one article. Another article is something that I wrote for Parenting Special Needs back in 2014. Again, First Steps of Writing the Letter of Intent was the title of it. There's another one. MetLife has a newsletter they do for their agents and brokers, and they asked me in 2013 to write a letter about doing letters of intent. So you'll get that article also on doing it. The form itself, the letter of intent, first page, with the way we put it together, it's first person. It's like my Mitch is writing it, okay? So it's all about me. That's how I like to present it. And that's the reason I say that is, who should be participating? Well, the child with special needs should be participating depending on their level. They all communicate, some not verbally, some by their actions, but all our kids communicate, and we can get that down. So it starts off on the page 2 about saying, family and friends, that this is a suggested form. No 2 kids are the same. Some of the points I'm going to talk about don't relate to your kid, maybe somebody else's kid. But we're doing one form for everybody with broadly defined special needs. So therefore, I'm saying keep that in mind as you look at this, we go through this. Some things apply to you, some don't. It's guidance not only to future care providers and guardians, but also financially, the trustees, okay, and agencies, okay. I also put in here that to my fellow families, well, we're always learning, okay? And I'm saying to you, if you see something in the form, you have a suggestion. We've improved this form over the years because fellow parents have said, hey, why don't you add this in? Or why don't you say it this way? And that's welcomed. It's welcome to get that information, okay? I also talked about, as I just alluded to, in the form I'm saying we got to do that executive summary or the bullet points, how to get through 24 or 48 hours. And next to some of the bullet points, we might say, more information, page 35 of the book or 45 of the book. But here is what you really need to know to survive the immediate time after we pass away. So again, it's written in first person. It's around the table, participants. So depending on the child with special needs, they should be there. Siblings, grandparents, Mitch's nieces and nephews and niece, I should say, in our case. And everybody can contribute because they see things that maybe that you don't see. They're making observations that we as parents maybe don't see, and it's all valid. And it's very important to have that person, depending again on their level, be sharing their perspective and what their needs are. So looking at the form, page 3 of the form is the basics, date of birth, place of birth, attaching, it says you attach a birth certificate or recent photograph. Are they registered to vote? Keep that in mind. Even if you have guardianship in Illinois, you're deemed to be an adult disabled person, you're able to vote because this is Illinois. You could be dead and vote several times. It doesn't matter. But bottom line is, you could vote even though you're declared to be incompetent. Not true in all states, but it's Illinois. A copy of voter registration, if okay, fine. The best way for me to understand what you say, you should write it down, show me pictures, whatever it is. The best way for you to understand what I say and tools that make me communicate, if they're using equipment for communication. So again, this is what's being attached to communication. Yeah, we started off the form by doing that type of stuff, okay? Then we said we have what describes me. So for some of the children we're talking about, and I talk about children, Mitchell's turning 40 in a couple weeks. He's still a child. He's my child. So what describes me? What makes me happy? What do I do when I'm happy? What do I do when I'm sad? How do I express when I'm sad? How do I express when I'm not happy? I'm upset about something. What are the signs that you can see? Getting those things down. We take it for granted. Maybe even your other kids, if you're fortunate enough to have other competent kids, they all go off to school, they go off to college, they have their own life. at a certain point, they don't know day to day what's going on. You share some things with them, but they have their own lives. Later on, they're married, they have their own kids. So we need to get these information down timely. And that's why I'm saying do it as a Word document that you can update periodic, or we have as a fillable PDF that you can update periodically, because things are going to change. What makes me upset, things that help me calm me down or comfort me, some things that I can do to help myself. What can you do? What makes me sad again? Those type of things. So we have a question, so to speak, a statement, and then we have blank lines for family to insert things. Again, if you're doing it as a Word document, and we can send it out, as you check the box, we send it out as a Word document and a PDF, it's easy for you to add on 6, 7 lines or take out some lines if you want to. Of course, you can always do it by handwriting too. Change. A lot of our kids have a big trouble with change and routines and stuff. So what helps me prepare for and deal with change? Big one during this COVID period of time. Things that motivate me. After I accomplish a task and I'm doing something well, what do I want to hear? How do you, what do I want people to say? Good job? Are there buzzwords that if you say that to me, it's going to set me off? How do you tell me if I'm doing something well, how to tell me that? Maybe not verbal, maybe it's by your actions, okay? If I make a mistake or fail to do something, how do you tell me I blew it or I made a mistake? What is a positive way of doing it, not a negative way of doing it? Would I be lost if I lost certain possessions? There's this stuffed animal that I've had forever, and I always want to carry that with me, and that helps comfort me, okay? Or if somebody takes this away from me, it's going to be a major issue, a major blow. Habits and routines that I have. I like to do the following. What activities they like? They like skydiving, Bottom line is, what activities? Bowling, too loud, too much commotion, or whatever. Get those things down, okay? Too many people talking at one time, a bad idea. Okay, all right. Getting those things down. What do I like to do with others, and what do I like to do by myself? Do I like going out in the community, and if so, what are the outings I prefer, and what is not a good idea? What type of vacations do I like, what don't I like to do? If people say something to me, and it gets me upset, how can we help that, or how can we protect you from that? Recreation, type of things. Leisure activities. Pros, cons. What works, what doesn't work, okay? Favorite places to visit. Favorite vacations. I mean, Mitch, over the years, we went to Disney World a number of times, and he's still imagination, the ride, he sings the song. There's things that he'll go back 10 years, 15 years and talk about things that happened on a certain vacation. Those type of things. Household tasks. What do they do around the house that they like doing? What do you have them doing so that they feel good about themselves? What can they do with some assistance, and what can't they do? I'll tell you though, Mitch moving into the group home, he does things now that he never did when he was home. He eats things now he never did when he was home. We're bad parents. Bottom line is, what did you eat? Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, so it's very interesting to see him. I was going to use the word mature, but grow, whatever word, adjective you want to use, the adverb you want to use. Let's see. Foods. Again, I just was talking about that, For years it was pizza, no cheese. Just wants the sauce on the bread. And now he'll do it because other people in the house are eating it or whatever. Favorite restaurants. I mean, there's no doubt. What's number one on the list? Portillo's. Hot dogs for Portillo's is number one. Okay. He wants a Polish. We keep telling him it's not good for you. I don't know how much better hot dogs are, but okay. If special diets. Okay, foods that doesn't agree with him that he may want, but we know it doesn't agree with him. Getting that information down, or maybe it's a medical issue that you got to get these diets down. Family tree. this is not so much for the other kids. Well, to some extent, there may be aunts, uncles that you don't really have a relationship with or estranged from, but the guardians and trustees need to know who these people are when they show up, okay? So that's why there's a comments place or a place for put comments in there, contact information. The other reason is for staff. If they're a day program, residential program, having a record of who it is. And you might have, we don't want him to have contact with this person or that person, or he does well with this person or something. Holidays. Does he have a history or she have a history of celebrating? That's very important to this child. Not just birthdays, holidays, but anniversaries, whatever. What do they like to do when it comes to that? Is there a favorite flavor cake that they always like to have? Do they like to have the candles? They don't like the candles. They blow out the candles. They don't blow out candles. Okay, but which are important? For years, we had 2 times a year, on Christmas Eve and on 4th of July, Mitchell always would do a hotel trip because he liked going to a hotel, going up the elevator, and sleeping at a hotel. Of course, this is the first year that I think since he was about 4 or 5 years old, we haven't done it because of COVID. But those were things that he always looked forward to. Well, we can't lose that or have people forget about those type of things, even if they are unable to do it. Is that they have to know that if he brings it up, what he's talking about. Okay, that's why putting important people listed in here. Mitch talks about certain aides that he had when he was 9, 10 years old that are still in his head, and he talks about what happened to this person or that person. So it's nice if your future team knows what these names are, so when he comes out of the blue with them, that they know what he's talking about. Religious, ethnic organizations, that he's part of, be religious, ethnic, whatever, that you want him to participate or she to participate in, and to keep going to those things. Okay, get it down. Close friends, maybe from school, maybe from other day activities, whatever it might be, but who are his or her friends that they like to be with, and who might be trying to contact them and want to be with them, but it's not a good idea. They really don't want to be with that person. Getting that information down. Next is basics, okay? Depending on the situation. I live here, here's my phone number. I share a room with, if they do share rooms, which hopefully they don't. Pets. Mitch had a dog, a Westie, for years. The dog, Flopsy, lived for about 14 years. It was great, and really loved the dog. And it helped him process when somebody dies, what it means. But still, Mitchell talk about Flopsy, and Flopsy died, 20 years ago. Yeah, it could be 20 years. So bottom line is that you got to get this information down so that the future people, especially if it's not maybe the siblings, if it's aunts, uncles, whatever, they may not know all this information. In the future, where would I like to live? You're trying to do that. Who I want to live with. Some situations, depending on the nature of the special needs, we anticipate them living on their own with some assistance, maybe living with family, and maybe that's not realistic. They're going to be living in residential, be it a group home or an ICFTD, a campus like Misericordia. But that's something that should be talked about. Depending on the level, they should be participating. Educational background, the history of school, IEPs. If you have MDCs, IEPs, you have IQ tests, especially depending on the age. It's very important because for PUNs, technically the IQ test has to be between 17 and 18, an adult test, and for other services before 22. But you want to have those documented IQ tests and IEPs that are going to come in handy when you're dealing with your ISC agent for PUNs and things like that down the road. Your thoughts about future for school, again, if they're still young enough and they're going to be going to post-transition, what's out there. Typical day right now, again, that's why it's a living document. Is it competitive employment, support employment, or workshop? The state calls workshop or sheltered employment regular work. Where they come up with it, I don't understand, but that's what they call it. DT, developmental training programs, what are they doing during the day now, and what do you anticipate them doing later on? What are your thoughts are? What will be the most successful? More specifics on religion. They attend a specific church or synagogue? Do they want to do that? Are they doing that only because you're dragging them there? Who are good contact information? Or maybe youth groups that they've been involved with, things like that. And then towards the bottom there, we get the healthcare information. Again, here's we go into the diagnosis. What there may have been a prior diagnosis that was wrong. Okay, get that information down. Again, the doctors, dentists. Mitchell's dentist has a son, also has a son with autism, also happens to be in a Clearbrook group home, but he knows how to deal with Mitchell real well because of having a son. So if you have that, you don't want them taken to a different dentist, and you want, if he's successful, let's stick with that. My problem now is I get there up in years, all my doctors and dentists keep retiring on me. So next, talking after is there, besides that, for our young ladies out there, gynecologists, is there a psychiatrist, neurologist? Again, history of who they've seen that was successful and those they've seen that wasn't successful, stay away. Healthcare providers, besides that, as a therapist, PTOT, whatever it might be, speech. The medications is a biggie, and when I was doing my intro, I said that there's certain meds that Mitch went years ago was trying, and it was a disaster. Bring it up to the other kids. They may not remember this. So, medication name, dosage, when taken, prescribed for, what's the doctor prescribed it, the effects on them, how it affects them. And again, in the past, what's the doctors, or why you stopped. All this is down there. It's a tickler to fill this in. Pharmacies, preferred pharmacies that you've been using. And look at the bottom there on this page 21. I never want to use the following doctors or dentists or health providers. Again, let's be specific, okay? Nobody's going to sue you. Equipment, vision, hearing, other needs that you need regarding care, how to care for the special equipment if necessary. Voice box or talk box, whatever. If there's somebody that you go to and there's a problem with it, okay, great. Seizures, if there's seizures, best ways of dealing with seizures, okay. What is going to be a lead-in, what's going to give you a sign, maybe, hopefully. Medical operations they've had. Sleeping habits, how to get them to sleep. Do they take anything to go to sleep? And what happens. History of immunizations, birth control, be it genetic testing. Personal care. What do they do for themselves, even though they may tell you they can't do it themselves. They can, okay? We're enabling. The parents are enablers, okay? So Mitch was home, or if he's on a home visit, tie my shoes. No, Mitch, you can tie your shoes. No. All right, we're in a hurry, I'm tying your shoes, okay? But now in the group home, no, he ties his shoes, okay? So the parents are great enablers. So, we want the future care providers to know what he really can do and what he can't do. Specifics about clothing size and shoe size and things like that. Do you have to prompt them to do personal care type items? Okay, so there's a place for that. Okay, if I do I have preferences? A certain toothpaste maybe is, this toothpaste is not going to work. You just can't use any toothpaste. Your morning routines, nighttime routines, favorite clothes. Well, they got to be washed. Okay, but this is the thing I want to wear every day. Okay, type of thing. Okay. Government benefits. Are they receiving SSI, SSDI? Are they a day on the parent's work record? The amount, getting that down. The Medicaid number, the Medicare number. You have also private health insurance. Now, Illinois has a statute that says that if they are disabled, that they can stay on a private health insurance past 26. Again, so it's important. You could have Medicaid, Medicare, and private insurance. Just depends who pays first, second, and third. But we need Medicaid for the programs. That's what pays the programs, not just medical. Following insurance, information about the following insurance, additional income or assistance that they're getting. Are there bank accounts out there? Is there for Social Security, is there a representative payee account? Who's a representative payee? It's on here. It's a tickler. Get that information down. If they're working, what's their average paycheck, who they've been working for, history of employment, do they need help doing their own banking? If so, to what extent? People who can assist me, okay? Is there a case manager? Is there maybe a professional third-party trustee? Example, Day One Pact and Lifespan Inc., subsidiary Ray Graham Association, 2 chapters of the Arc of Illinois that serve as trustees of Special Needs Trust. Day One Pact also, if we don't have other options, serves as guardian. Do they have trusts? If so, who the trustees are, successor trustees are, information about that. Who the guardian is. In Illinois, you're able to nominate in your will successor guardian to parents. Parents can nominate under the statute. Who do you have in there? That's something that changes. I'm telling you, the most often reason people call to change documents is changing who their successor guardian is going to be. But is it a limited guardianship? Is it a full guardianship? Are they doing that? Or the powers of attorney, who's their agents under the powers of attorney? What county was the guardianship done in? Because some counties, if you did the guardianship in McHenry or in DuPage, and now they moved out to a different county, you got to move the guardianship. Who are the successor guardians after the first name guardian and your agents for powers of attorney? If there's documents like that, you want copies together with your letter of intent. They don't have to start digging through drawers and where do they put it. Oh, it's in a safe deposit box that I can't get into. You know, it's not going to be very helpful. The place for the funeral arrangements and end-of-life type of decisions. Do they have, under the Illinois Healthcare Surrogate Act, a guardian, or if there's no guardian, the parents can do living wills for the child with special needs? If so, it should be attached, put in here. It gets towards the end here, it talks about the parents' hopes and dreams for the future. Other things that that weren't listed that I want the guardians to know. All right. Moving on for a second here, Benji is president of SIBS, which is a state chapter of a national organization of adult siblings. He's the president of the Illinois chapter. They also run workshops for younger siblings. So the Illinois chapter is SIBS, which the website's on the screen. The adult version, the national version, is called the Sibling Leadership Network. There's chapters in about 30-some states. And again, their website is on there too. Good resource. You know, there's support groups for parents. This is a working. They have programs. They have Facebook groups. They have social activities. Sibling to sibling. For sibling information, it's number 7 on the tear-off sheet. All right, so I want to give you a little review here and talk a little bit about, besides a review, what really you need to do for a full estate plan, and then we're going to try and take questions. But first, family information and history. This is again review. Relationships. You know, every family has people that they're not close to, or for whatever reason they don't want their child to be with, or for alone at least. Okay, including medical history in the family. It's important. Is there a history of the group home later on, or the care provider says, was there ever any of this in the family? Oh, I don't know. Well, document it. Okay. Behavior, do's, don'ts, buzzwords, techniques if they're having a meltdown. Mitchell doesn't like, there's certain phrases or words that are going to set him off. So we just write down, don't say this if you could help it, because you'll be sorry, you'll never go to sleep. Next, meltdown techniques. Again, what works, what doesn't work, what might work sometimes. Thoughts about the future, school, education, concerns, suggestions, future employment, day programs, activities, preferred living arrangement for them in the future. Parents, while we're still upright, need to get that down. Somebody passes away, again, how do you deal with it? How do you explain it? How should they participate or not participate? The government benefit information, history, and where all the documentation is, who the contact person is. Emergency information, short-term guardianship, which is delegating guardian responsibility. I'm going in the hospital. You're going to be in charge for the next week. Illinois has this short-term guardian declaration where you're able to delegate for an adult up to 60 days in a 12-month period your guardian responsibility to somebody else. Powers of attorney, living wills. where are your documents, future funeral desires, and that executive summary, how to get through the next 24 or 48 hours. Okay, 1 or 2 page bullet points. Again, repeating number 2 on the request list. So this I went through before. Again, it's in there, it's in the handouts. Where the full presentations that we, for Sherry for almost 2 hours, talks about SSI, SSDI, what happens when the parents retire, how does it transfer to Medicare later on, how does it relate to Medicaid. We talked for a couple hours on wills, for 45 minutes on the puns and dealing with if you're selected and how to get selected and things like that. So again, that's for your information. You can register by phone or on the website. So what is a special needs planning? It's not just documents, and it's not just a letter of intent. It's not just provisions in wills and living trusts and powers of attorney. It's not just instructions to family and friends. Don't leave anything directly to this child. You got to leave it, to the special needs trust. Avoiding courts and probate when we can help it. Avoiding death tax. The federal exemption is pretty high. Illinois exemption is pretty high for death tax, but for all the good that Biden is going to bring to Washington, one of the things he's talking about is dropping the exemptions to a fraction of what it is now. So a lot of us, especially about a lot of life insurance, could be looking at death tax, which could be avoided. So that's part of your planning also. Again, talking about guardianship, but for some of us, guardianship is not the first thing we run to. Not even a limited guardianship. Maybe it's powers of attorney. Maybe it is just assisting the person, not even going in and having a formal power of attorney. There are alternatives depending on the child. Having the law firm assist you in changing beneficiaries and titles. It shouldn't be left up to you. Guidance on doing letters of intent. Divorce, child support messes up SSI and Medicaid unless it's done right. It's got to be paid directly to a court order. It's got to be written correctly in the divorce order. We consult all the times with divorce lawyers on getting that fixed. If there is lawsuit settlements, personal injury settlements, again, messes up the SSI and Medicaid unless it's done correctly, payable directly to certain special needs trusts. ABLE accounts. Everybody's talking about ABLE accounts. It's not as advertised. It's only for certain purposes. There's a payback when the child passes away. People are running to it. We'd like to explain to people there are good reasons to use ABLE accounts, but really only for first-party money, the child's money, not for other people's money. And again, we go through that in the presentations, but also when you meet with clients. Navigating a move to another state. Clients say, what if I move to another state? Better services? Yeah. Illinois is on the bottom of the states. Even with the latest lawsuit, we're still on the bottom, close to the bottom of the states. So you say, okay, well, where are the better states? And well, it depends what you're looking for. It depends on what the nature of the special needs are. But we help people navigate that if you have a choice. They're retiring. Well, what states are the best to retire to if my child with special needs is coming with me? Talk about that. Assistance with government benefits, again, getting the government benefits, keeping them, keeping you up to date when laws or things have changed like that. Mentoring parent to parent, sibling to sibling. That's what special needs planning is. It's a relationship. It should be ongoing. It's not just getting documents, so to speak. So when I speak for the ARC and the other organizations, I talk about, who do you go to? Yeah, you can go to Rubin Law, but you don't have to. I suggest you look at specialneedsalliance.org. It's a national organization of special needs planning attorneys by invitation. There's a vetting process. I'm a past president of this national organization, but we have attorneys in 48 states. We have probably about maybe 10 attorneys in Illinois. Of course, half of them are in my practice. So, but you go there and you can see check on the map of Illinois, and you're going to see those people. They've been vetted. You'll be in good hands. The information's from there. It's now about 5 to 12, and we promised that we're going to keep this to an hour. So what I'm going to do is, unless Linda already did it, is allow people to unmute themselves. Did you take care of that, Linda? Linda, you're muted right now. I'm not hearing you. If not, I'm going to go to over here, participants, and allow participants to unmute themselves. I just did that. So people, if they have questions, should be able to.
Your brother just texted you, and it's a text you can't
Yes, my
refuse.
brother texted me. Okay, so now we'll see. If you have a question, try talking, and hopefully we'll get one person at a time if you have a question. If not, thanks for not going to sleep, or if you did go to sleep, that you didn't snore.
I do want to say that the ARC presentations and the special needs presentations that Brian mentioned are on the CTC website under our events page. So there should be links there to sign up for those. They're wonderful presentations. Highly recommend.
There also is coming up in April, for the second year, we'll be doing our convention, which always was in Lisle, but the last year was virtual, and this year is going to be virtual. It's 2 days of a lot of breakouts, a lot of good topics. You'll also find it on the ARC website. Again, you'll see some of the same names. Sherry Schneider will be speaking there. Brenji and I'll be speaking. But there's 2 days of a lot of topics, some heavily on education, some on siblings, some on government benefits. People that are very involved with the puns will be talking about the pun selection. So check out the ARC of Illinois website. The ARC of Illinois website is pretty easy. The ARC, THEARCOF of Illinois IL, so thearcofil.org, and a lot of information.
Bert, I see you have a question if you want to shout it out.
You have to unmute yourself. So well, let me see if I can unmute you. I see your hand up here. I'm going to hit. You should be able to talk. You're not muted now.
Okay, now I'm good. Sorry about that. Yeah, you weren't letting me in. I had a question about life management services.
Yes.
I understand Day One Pact has life management services.
Right. People are a little confused. They were the pass agent or ISC agent for DuPage and then for DuPage Kane and Kendall. They lost that contract, but their other services are still intact and doing well.
Okay, and I guess I'm asking you, since you or your son seem to be on the board over there, I've tried contacting them a couple times recently, and I can't get any response. Is there a better way to contact them rather than calling them?
Email me. Just email,
Okay.
email. We see it on the screen. Email Rubin.
Yeah, I see it. Yes, I got it down.
And say, having trouble contacting Day One Pact. We're going to give you a specific name, number, email address to get to an individual.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Okay.
Because we're working on revising our estate planning now. So this has been very helpful. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, sure.
Task is definitely overwhelming in some ways, the letter of intent. You can see all the information, but just start. Just start with the most important things. Put it in your file. Go to it once a month. Update it as best you can. Our family has put it in as a shared document with our older son and daughter-in-law so that they can access it and see it and add to it if they would like. Just try to take it one day at a time. Don't become overwhelmed and just start it, because it really gives you a lot of peace of mind when you have something in place, and you can always continue to add to it.
And tell people that you periodically may be sending them an update, PDF or whatever, and there's always a delete button, delete the old, keep the new. And again, it's peace of mind that even if they don't read it now, don't look at it now, they have it. If something happens, they have it.
Else have any questions? I think you are able to unmute yourselves if you have one.
Let me just double check here if I didn't screw it up.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately I got on kind of late. I apologize. Is this presentation available? Will it become available on the CTC website or anything?
I have a link. It's recorded. I have a link that I will, if I can figure out how to do it, I will send it to Linda.
That would be
Great.
great.
We
I
can put
appreciate
it
that.
as a post
Yeah.
and certainly share it with everyone who registered as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
I have a question. How often should you update your special needs trust? Do
Well,
the
the
laws
attorney,
in Illinois change that often, or
well, no, it's not an Illinois law that changes. The statute in Illinois, basically, 19 September 6, 1991, has only been slightly revised once since 1991. It's Social Security, not only change in laws, more often change in interpretations and POMS. The POMS is the regulations, changing those, and that is rare for third-party trust, but it's happened a number of times on first-party or payback trust. So what I tell people when I teach the course, we do special continuing education course for the State Bar, for the American Bar Association, and we tell the attorneys it's really your obligation, attorneys, that if there's changes in the law that affect your client's documents, you got to notify them. If not, then at least the client should be periodically checking in with their attorney. It shouldn't be that way; it should be the other way. But checking periodically, saying, "Is there anything I need to do an update?" But our position is that the attorney's obligation is to make sure that if there's changes, that they're up to date on it and they're updating their clients. Textbooks, going back to law school, textbooks always say to tell people every 3 to 5 years, look at it. I like to look at it as life cycle events. Births, deaths, marriages, divorces, or whatever, graduations, should generate your idea of saying, is this something I should think about? Should I be making any kind of change? Our position is if clients say, do we need to make any change? Yeah, call, we'll talk about it. It's not no cost for talking about it. Maybe you don't, maybe you do. There's bells and whistles that we add on to certain documents that we didn't do maybe when you did your documents, but is it required? I call it, when I teach the course, I talk about fatal mistakes in documents and then the bells and whistles. So the question is, has anything changed that requires us to make a change to your document? If not, here's some things to consider. I'll give you an example. If you're going, God forbid, into the nursing home, you want Medicaid to pay for your nursing home. You get your money, you got to impoverish yourself. You can't give your money away. There's a 5-year look-back period. You give your money away within 5 years, it's still looked upon as yours. Federal law exception to that rule, moving it into a special needs trust, the next day you're eligible for Medicaid to pay for your nursing home care. So if certain language is in the trust. So there's things like that are bells and whistles we talk about. If you're a teacher, you have a TRS pension that you want to pass on the annuity to the military pension, same thing. You want to pass that on to the annuity to the special needs trust. There's certain language that's got to be in the trust. These are not fatal mistakes if they're not there, but these are things that when they come in, and the rules change on these things, that the attorney should be sharing that with the clients.
thank you, Brian. That's great information.
Try and keep to our time schedule here. Again, you have the request forms if you want anything sent out to you. We're a little short-handed right now. Besides the pandemic, my daughter unexpectedly passed away November 30th. So, and she's the one who took care of sending this stuff out. So it may be a couple weeks before you get the stuff, but you will get it, the PDFs.
Bertie, did you have one more question? I see your hand up. Anything quick? Should be able to unmute yourself.
I forgot to lower my hand. I didn't know I
That's
had to lower it.
Okay.
We're all figuring it out. All right. Well, thank you so
All right.
much, everybody, for joining in. I will get the recording from Brian at some point and post it on the CTC website as a resource, as well as I'll try to share it with everybody who registered for the event. We will have another Friday forum coming up in February, so we'll get that posted soon. And thank you so much, Brian, for your time. Your expertise is unparalleled as far as I'm concerned, and we're so grateful that you shared the information with us today. So thank you so much.
All right, take care, everybody. Be safe.
Thank you, everyone.